It was a familial place. You knew most of the people. High River, like most towns, had uh, a west end, which was considered itself a little more highfalutin, and an east end, which considered itself little less so. Those they weren't really boundaries, but they stayed through high school. You tended now that's partly geographic. The people you came to and from school with lived where you did. One of the sharp memories I have is that the kids who came from the farms to school were far more useful at doing things than those of us who came from the town, fairly small town. But the people who came from the farm grew up doing things that were sort of the childish side of adult things, but they were doing adult things. I worked in our print shop. We ran a newspaper in a print shop, and was not as adept as some others, so they were careful of me around the big cutting machine and things. But it was a different. There was that slight difference in raising with the kids from the farms and the kids from town. You knew everybody. My mom was a teacher, which was not an advantage to me. That if there was very good discipline in our school. We had a superb high school principal who would not have had the educational qualifications to be a high school principal today, but was perhaps the best teacher I ever had. And he kept a very rigorous discipline in the school. We wore ties in high school, no uniforms, but we were. And so, since my mother was one of his teachers, the burden of behavior, of good behavior, was particularly high on those of us who were connected to the school. It was a community. It was also a very similar community. We had a few Chinese Canadians who were there. Those were the only people, quotes, of color who were at school in High River in the 40s and the 50s. We were close to a couple of reserves, the Eden Valley Reserve, but Aboriginal kids were not there. There was not a large Métis population. It was primarily, the origin was primarily European and tended to be the UK or Scandinavia or places like that. So it was a quite united community. We had all sorts of churches, but it didn't seem to me that churches were an item of sort of contest. We happened to have, my family was a singing family, me less than the others. And we're very active, we're Roman Catholics, very active in midnight mass. Midnight mass was ecumenical well before the word was created. The best organist in town was not a Roman Catholic, except for the 6 or 7 weeks it took for us to get ready for midnight mass and midnight mass itself. And when other churches had musical things that were important to them, everybody parked their particular religion at the door, and off they went to. So there was that community spirit at the time. That's what a child saw. There were undoubtedly, other kinds of tensions. I was lucky to see the good things about a small community, but have no doubt there were other things there.